everyone, welcome back to The Hustlers. Today, Team Hustlers is back again with amazing podcast session, someone with great experience and knowledge.
As said, interaction is the best way to connect with people and learn from their experience. So, keeping this in mind, today we are having a person who is having more than 37 years of experience in the industry.
He has been in the industry for more than decades. 4 decades. Now from an engineering associate, network manager, senior consultant, account director, director of partners, science. Yes, we are talking about Garry Gray.
So if I talk about Mr. Garry Gray, he is a super down-to-earth person, always ready to help. I would like to thank Gourav Sharma sir, Associate Solution Architect at RedHat and YouTuber at Cheers4, Gourav, for providing us such a wonderful opportunity to interact one-on-one with Garry Gray. Like, it was never possible without him. So thank you so much, Gourav sir. And without further ado, let's get started with the session with Mr. Garry Gray. And I hope you enjoy it.
To manage my team. So, as you are a director and partner alliance of RedHat, you manage such a big organization, and it's very difficult to tackle a problem inside these big organization because it's RedHat, as the RedHat is a very big organization and there is such a big team. So how do you manage those conflicts inside these teams?
So maybe I'm going to do two things. One is we may have big teams but it's about span of control, right? So the Hustlers is a team. You guys kind of, you're not necessarily a massive team, but if you think about the pyramid of the people that that then is the next team below the team that you're working in, then you can end up with very big teams, right? And as you move up the management kind of levels, the same thing happens, right? I mean, my span of control is still 7 people, right? When I was at Xerox, I had 800 odd people that kind of rolled up to me, but my span of control was still only 6 or 7 or 8 people, right? So, and then they would have 6 or 7 or 8 people. So it's kind of that pyramid, right? So I think in managing a team, it's not that it's 100 people or 600 people. It's the 6 people that are in your span of control. And our good friend Gourav, he reminds me of this occasionally, but years ago on my LinkedIn profile, I used to have a quote, which was the Michael Jordan quote about, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships, right? And if you think about Michael Jordan and, his time at the Chicago Bulls, when that team started, they weren't necessarily considered the kind of best people in the game, right? They were a bunch of kind of professional basketballers, but they weren't necessarily, when they came together as a team and they really got teamwork going, then they became successful and then they won, championship ring after championship ring, right? And it's the same principle in managing a team, right? If you can bring that, again, park the span of control thing, because I will tend to gravitate and talk about that a bit. But, if you think about the people that are in Team Hustlers, you're a team. If you guys can work together and you all take roles and responsibilities for things that you're doing, then as a team, you will turn into a great team and you'll win some championships. And that's what you're trying to do, right? I mean, sure, there are maybe 5 or 6 kind of guiding principles that good teams will kind of, and leaders of good teams will have, kind of building relationships and trust across and within the team, right? So not everybody who works for me, everyone who maybe works for me is in my span of control. I certainly got one-on-one relationships with, but I encourage them to have relationships between each of the team members, right? Because again, each of them is good at what they do. Together, we're a great team, right? So each of them is talented. But together, when they leverage each other's strengths to maybe make up for some of their limitations, then they become a much better team, right? And that includes me, right? I mean, I've got strengths, but I've also got limitations. So again, if my team recognize and I recognize what some of my strengths are and some of my weaknesses or my limitations are, and we can collaborate and work together in a cohesive manner, then we get a kind of better outcome, right, as a team. So, building trust and encouraging that collaboration, that'd be one of them. The other thing that I would say is, as a team member, I want to be valued, right? And I'm sure, I know, my team want to be valued, right? And they are the key to the success that we have, right? It's not me. It's the fact that as individuals, we come together as a team. So I need to treat every part of my team, every person in my team, as the valuable asset that is going to make us and help us get to it. So, I think that's one. In fact, Simon Sinek has a quote, and I'm gonna actually read it if I can, because I remember it, but I always get it slightly wrong, right? A team is not a group of people that work together. A team is a group of people that trust each other, right? And if you can't trust each other and work together, again, playing to each other's maybe strengths and making up for any limitations that you have, then you're not really a team, right? You're just a bunch of people who work together, right? As a leader, the other thing that I would suggest you do is empower your team, right? Empower the people in your team, trust them, make them feel confident to do the things they need to do, right? If they're coming to you for guidance all the time, nothing gets done, right? Because you spend time answering their questions. Empower them, give them a framework in which to operate, give them a confidence in which to go and execute those things, and then they will be successful again, right? The other thing that as a leader that we think, and this is true for team members as well, is how we communicate, right? What one word means to me might be slightly different meaning to somebody else, right? So make sure that when you're communicating, you're very clear in your communications and your expectations, and conversely, that they're communicating back their understanding, right? And that is the same when you're working inside the team, right? So, Deepak, if you're talking to one of the other team members, same thing. You want to be kind of making sure that what you're saying is understood by the other person, and vice versa. What they're saying back to you is understood. Too many times I see great teams fall apart because there wasn't that clear communication and that understanding between each of the people about who was doing what or what was expected of one another, right? So communications is definitely another one of those. As a leader, you've always got a lot on your plate, right? So as founders, guys, you're always trying to organize maybe the next person you're going to interview, or, there's something else you got going on, right? Learn to delegate, right? Learn to share the workload amongst everybody in the team. But the one word of caution I'd give you with that is be careful about delegation, because sometimes it's easy to go, hey, I'm going to offload this piece of work, but that person's already busy, right? They're already swamped. And all of a sudden you give them something else. They don't want to say no to you because you're the leader, right? But actually what it does is it burns them out. So you've got to get the balance right. Make sure you're sharing the workload. Make sure, again, if I go back to my earlier point, play to the strengths of each of the team members, right? I'm no financial guru, right? But I have a fantastic financial manager who works with me, and I trust her with the numbers, but then she trusts me with strategy and vision, right? So, we kind of work together really well. On the journey, don't get me wrong, I can add the numbers up, but, I don't look at a spreadsheet and get it just as quickly as she can, but I'll often know what's going on in the market, right? Or often what's creating the numbers that she's seeing. And so together we can work out what's going on and then work out what the strategy needs to be, right? The other one as a leader is we shouldn't be afraid to ask for feedback, right? So often team members don't want to tell the boss that, hey, the way you're doing that doesn't work for me, right? So as leaders, what we need to be is, I'm going to use the word vulnerable, but we need to be approachable, and we need to be able to have people share with us, what we're doing. Maybe we're not doing it the way they'd like it. Maybe the way you spoke to me yesterday wasn't good for me. I'd like you to be aware of that. And then you can adjust yourself to suit those environments, right? But equally, the team members want feedback. So as a leader, you need to be able to share feedback with them about what they're doing, right? And that will help with that confidence piece we talked about earlier too, right? That all of a sudden, if they're getting positive feedback about the good things they're doing, that will lift their confidence, and then maybe talk to them a little bit about the things that maybe they didn't do quite as well, but then give them constructive feedback on how to do that better next time, right? Or work with them. Actually, it's a better way to do it, rather than say, hey, you could do this next time. Help them come to that conclusion that they could do that next time a different way or a better way, right? Does that answer the question? That was a long-winded answer, or at least it felt like it.
So yeah, you have explained it in such a nice way. So I still believe, like, I have read a thought, like, on the road of success, it's not me, it's we. So that's how I learned and I formed my team hustlers. So a friend of mine, Ananya, wanted to ask you the question. So over to you, Ananya.
Hello, Garry.
Hey, how are you?
How are you doing?
Very well, very well. Thank you for having me, Team Hustlers.
First of all, welcome to the Hustlers. Thank you very much for being with us. I can't believe I met you in my first year of engineering. I never think this much I can do in my first year only. So my first question is for you is, we would like to talk about partnering, like in a team. How can we establish a working relationship among all to have a smooth workflow?
Okay, yep, good question. So, look, partnerships are forms of teamwork, right? I mean, in reality, partnering is teamwork, right? In another name. I have a simple kind of 2 T's and 5 P's that I use to describe good partnering, right? The first 2 build on a little bit of what we talked about before. The 2 T's are trust and transparency, right? So we have to build trust amongst one another, both as team members, and if you're partnering, then you need to have trust with your partner, right? So think about maybe personal relationships are a good example, right? I mean, my wife and I have been married 31 years, but we obviously trust each other, in addition to love, hopefully. But we obviously trust each other. If we didn't have that trust, we wouldn't have a relationship, right? And it's the same with teamwork. It's the same with partnering. You have to have a foundation of trust, right? When you've got trust, then you can build on that for other things. Transparency is critical in creating trust, right? So that's the 2 T's. If you're not transparent, if I hide things from you guys, you're not going to trust me, then I'm probably not going to trust you. Then our partnership or our relationship will fall apart, right? And that's true in a team place. The 5 P's are things like predictability. So I always want to know that when I'm working with you, that you have an expectation of me and that I have an expectation of you, so that our experiences are always common, right? If all of a sudden you do something that we've been doing together for a long time differently and you don't signal to me that we're going to do that, then I start to wonder what's going on. And then in question comes the word trust again, right? So we start to think, okay, something's up here. This isn't normal. The relationship's changing. And then trust plays in or gets eroded potentially. Profit, right? That's the other P. And I mean this in a adding value sense, right? It could mean in a monetary sense. In a professional partnering world, it is typically the monetary sense, right? But in a adding value. So good teams or good partnerships work really well when both of us are adding value to one another and both of us are gaining from that value experience, right? So talking before about our good friend Gourav, I learned from Gourav. Gourav's learned from me, right? We're adding value to each other. Therefore, we have that profit is occurring in our relationship, right? Protection. That's another one. And I don't mean, kind of security protection, I mean protection from other people who will try to break that partnership, right? So again, good teams, let's take a sporting parlance, you've got a great soccer team or a great cricket team, the coaches from other team will see a player in that team and they'll try to pull that person away and take them off to their team, right? If we protect one another and we keep each other kind of, protected from those other things that go on, and I'm using that example from a sporting perspective, but, if we create a kind of team where we're willing to do something for each other and we protect each other from the things that go on in life and go on and that'll impact our partnership, then again, we will have a relationship that moves forward and becomes partnership or moves to a partnering kind of scenario. The other one is process, right? And it builds a little bit on what I said about predictability. But if you and I have a way that we work together and I always email you and you always email me and we know that's how we work together and it's simple and it works for us, then that's great. But if we don't have a common process and we don't have a procedure or an approach that we take, then again, it puts a partnership or the teamwork at risk, right? And then preparedness. And this is a good one that my son, who's a third year engineering student, doing mechanical engineering, right? I'm always at him about being prepared for the assignments that he's got coming up for the exams, but he's kind of, I'll prepare kind of the day before and, but in a partnership, we need to be prepared to go together, right? So again, I need to have set some goals and we've got to agree that those are the goals that we want from our partnership. And then we need to build the plans and be prepared to go that way, right? If we show value and add value, our partnership will be valued. Right? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. Amazing answer. Can I ask some more questions to you? But that would be a different part of this session, not belonging to partnering and not all this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So, what is the strangest thing you have ever done?
The strangest thing I've ever done. Is this a G-rated program? Strangest thing I've ever done. Look, when I played football, I won't tell that story. When I played football, I'll clean it up a little bit. If you didn't score a try in the season, and it wasn't unusual for some of the forwards to not score a try, I used to play rugby, then at the end of the year, you had to take your clothes off and run from one end of the field to the other naked. So that's probably the strangest thing I've ever done. In a professional sense, the strangest things I've probably ever done is being given the opportunity to learn about other cultures when I traveled to some of the remote places that I've been to. So I was fortunate enough many years ago to spend some time in Africa, in the Middle East, in different parts of Asia. And when you get those opportunities, again, it depends on you as an individual. In my case, I like kind of doing weird things and trying different things. So, when I was in Africa, I ate some of the local insects that they cook. And, in the world I grew up, you wouldn't do that normally. So that's probably the strangest thing in a professional context that I've done, right? Rather than the nude run in the rugby sense that I shared with you.
So what is your favorite dish you ever want to eat?
Well, you can probably tell by the fact that I've got, a jowl here that I love food. There's pretty much no favorites for me. I love all food. Last night, and not playing to the audience, but last night we had a chicken tikka masala. A couple of nights ago, we were having pasta. So I love all food. I love cooking. Which is kind of pretty strange sometimes. People go, well, why do you cook all the time? I love being creative, right? So.
That's great. So my friend Upendra is coming on the screen and he will be asked some questions to you.
Sure. Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you, Nane, for giving me this honor. So, as you know, Gary, as your name suggests, it's a river in Scotland. Little bit I remember. When I saw you first time on the Cheers with Gourav, I feel some connections towards your words, your way of motivation, your generosity, and a lot more. And from that day, I am dreaming to have you on the Hustlers. And now it's an honor for me to gain some knowledge from you. So, in that context, I want to ask that if we talk about starting something innovative and want to explore some new ideas, it requires an efficient team for that, right? So my question is how we can build that efficient team, and at that qualities, what should we look for choosing the fellow mates in the team?
Again, great question, right? So I think if you think about innovation, firstly, just like playing sport, and I'm going to use the sporting parlance again, I'm sorry, but just like playing sport, innovation is hard work, right? Good innovation is very hard work, right? So, if we use the sporting parlances, if I just want to play grade cricket, that's probably okay. But if I want to play in the IPL or something else, right, that's a lot of hard work. For me as an individual, for a team, obviously, you can put together a bunch of, great athletes, but that there's a quote that's kind of jumping to my head, right? Which is, a champion team will always beat a team of champions, right? And the same is true in an innovation world, right? You can have the best players in a team, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're the best team on the day, right? And in innovation is the same thing, right? It requires good people, but it requires good people who are committed to what you're trying to achieve, right? So in terms of picking a team, I think that was the second part of your question. It's again, if I relate it to my earlier response to the question before, it's about recognizing what your strengths are and maybe what some of your limitations are, and then trying to find people that will help, address maybe some of your limitations, and equally your strengths will maybe address some of their limitations. But it's also about culture. So one of the things at RedHat, and I know Gourav has talked about this many times in different forms in his chats, but it's also about having people that have a similar kind of open view and a similar mindset to yourself, right? If you work with somebody, or you want to go and innovate with somebody, and they've got a closed mind and they're not interested in kind of working in a collaborative manner, then you're not going to get innovation. What you're going to get is they're thinking in their silo and you're thinking in your silo, right? But if you can sometimes get yourself out of your silo and they can get themselves out of their silo, and you can work together, then you can get that innovation going. And that's what, if we think about RedHat, this is not an ad for RedHat, but obviously RedHat is about taking what goes on in communities, getting them to collaborate with one another, and then taking the best out of that and then commercializing it, right? So what works in terms of success factors around innovation is probably, diversity of kind of mindset, and tools and experiences, right? So again, what's your strength? What's your strength? Can we put them together? Do they complement each other? And I think about this in the partnering world, right? I often encourage partners that we've got in our ecosystem to work together. They'll see themselves as competitors often, right? In a commercial sense. But one of them will have a practice in solution or technology A, another one of them will have a quality solution in technology B, right? When you put them together, it's not A plus B, it's actually A times B, right? Because you're taking the best of what both of them bring to the table and turning it into a multiplier, right? Mindset or culture, as I said, I think that's critical. If you've got if you've got 5 people on the team who've got this great open mindset and they're innovators and they're wanting to be passionate, and then you've got one person who's kind of holding the team back or is siloed, then again, that's not going to work. I think the other thing is have your goal, have what you're trying to work for, make sure you've got some measures on the way to that goal, right? Because no one ever starts with the thought that I'm going to climb to the top of Mount Everest and they start at the top, right? They actually start at the base camp, or in fact, they probably start at home, and then they work their way to the base camp, and then they climb up Everest, right? And so along the way, they break those journeys up into steps, right? And stages. And so do the same thing when you're trying to innovate as a team. Set yourself a goal for sure, or where you want to get to, but have some measures along the way that tell you you're on that right track, right? The other thing is be careful. I've seen, and you guys will have, in some of your studies, the number of people that started out to go and build A, and yet they're famous for doing B, right? Because on that journey, they saw another opportunity and they pivoted to that other technology or that. Did Elon Musk get up wanting to, build a battery? Nope. I'm sure that, again, when you look at his journey and some of the successes that he's had, again, they didn't start out with that was what we were going to do. They started out doing other things, and then maybe there was an opportunity to do the batteries and space and everything else, right? So make sure you do that. And then the other one is don't be afraid to ask for help. And you guys are a perfect example of that, right? You reached out to Gourav and you said, hey, we want to build what we're doing here. Team Hustlers wants to learn and share. Let's go and ask for help. Don't ever be afraid as a team to ever ask for help, right? It's the old story. There is no such thing as a dumb question other than if you don't ask it. And it's the same with asking for help, right? There is nothing stupid in asking for help.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's an amazing. Yes, Gourav sir really helped us a lot in building our team. And it's really cool, and we are going now. So my friend Deepak have also one question from me. So Deepak, please carry on.
Thank you, Upen. It's finally my chance. They all put me in the last. Gary, so it's an unprofessional question. First of all, I would like to thank you for attending our session, and I'm so very excited that I'm talking one-on-one with you. So, I would like to ask you, you are a business professional, okay? So, you will be busy in meetings and the work-related stuff all the day. Just curious to know what you do in your spare time, in your free time, if you want to tell.
Well, if you haven't already worked it out, I like sport because we talked a lot about that in this chat. But I mean, look, I love watching sport these days. I don't play it as much as I used to. My body's kind of not. I do play golf. I love golf. And so when I get the opportunity, I play that a lot. But I'll watch just about any sport. Right now, Sydney's in lockdown. So, I haven't been able to go far from home. But the Olympics are on, right? So what am I watching? I'm watching the Olympics whenever I can. I love seeing high-performing athletes, compete. So sport is probably the other love. Food, we talked about. I love food, and I love my family, and I love traveling. This environment we're in right now with this pandemic is making me sad on a number of fronts, not the least of which, people being impacted by it and people losing their lives and all those things. But also on a selfish level, I'm not being able to get to travel. And travel for me is a place where I get to learn and experience things. And so, yeah, I'm missing that. But that's something I love as well. So.
That's great. So, coming on the main question, for all of the new individuals in the first year and the second year like us, every new student, newbie, is running behind to get a job in a company, and they are not following their passion or the family pressures and all that. They are not able to follow, and they are not doing something innovative, something new to run a small startup or a business. So as you are in the business development in the RedHat and you have a great experience, so I would like to enlighten all the students, if we want to start a business, start a startup, what tips you should give to them?
So a couple of things in that. So I grew up on a farm. My dad wanted me to be a farmer. I loved being a farmer when I was growing up, but I didn't see a passion for that. And I went off and studied engineering. So and I haven't been near the farm in many a year. But I was also fortunate enough partway through my career to start a business with a very good partner of mine. We were both relatively young, and we were hungry to kind of follow our passion. The thing that I would say in starting businesses can be incredibly rewarding. If I think back to the experience that I had, on one hand, I loved it because we were building something that was our passion. On the other hand, I also hated it, right? Because it came with a whole pile of stress and anxiety and sleepless nights and all sorts of. So, the thing that I would say is if you're going to go down that path, be prepared for all of those things. And you do you. I think we talked about this before we started recording, right? But I'm a big believer in you got to do what's right for you at that time, right? Today, it may not be starting that innovative business. Maybe it's taking a role in a corporation because that's what's right for you in the current environment, right? And that was certainly for me when I got my degree. I went and started in a corporation, and I was fortunate enough to travel around the world doing what I was doing in my engineering. But, when I kind of got later on in life, I decided I needed to do my own business and build my own solution and take that to market. And so I think it's about doing what's right for you at the time, right? In terms of being an innovator or an entrepreneur, look, lots of businesses fail, but they fail for lots of reasons. You run out of money, you run out of time. Maybe you didn't dedicate the time to the job or to the business, right? Other distractions, other impacts. So the thing that I would say is, again, if you're going to go off and build your own business, and I encourage everybody to do it at some point in their career, it doesn't have to be at the beginning. I think there's the story of many successful people, like the guy who started McDonald's, right? Like he was kind of towards the end of his career. Bad example, fast food, right? But, it's still, there's lots of people who started there and did the innovation later in their careers as they develop other skills and other experiences, right? So do you is what I would say at the time that it's right for you, right? Don't assume just because you've finished your engineering degree, you have to go off and innovate something and take that to market. Maybe work it and take a job in a big corporate, and then in the background be thinking about the innovation, and your experiences in that company might actually help you make that innovation even better when you come to take it to market, right? It can be hard being an entrepreneur, that's for sure. You're not going to succeed all of the time. If it was easy being an entrepreneur, we'd all be entrepreneurs. You're going to fail sometimes, right? And when you do, the one thing I'd encourage you to do, pick yourself up and go again, right? What's that quote? You fall down 7 times, the winner is the person who gets up the 8th time, right? So, put yourself out there, keep going. People will tell you that there are lots of doubters in this world, right? People will tell you, no, that will never work, right? Okay, it might not work, but learn from that experience, fine-tune it, have another go, right? We were fortunate enough in our business to build it into a business of 86 people and, $30 million in revenue. We sold it because the stress was too much for both of us at the point we were in our lives, because we both had young families and we wanted to dedicate more time to them. So, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, Garry, that's great. I think I got the answer for my last question. And I think what you said is just follow your passion, do what you want to do, and you will be successful at any point of time. That's all from my side.
Do you, right? Be you, do you. Be prepared to fail too, right? And then be prepared to try again. And it doesn't matter if that's in an entrepreneurial world or in the corporate world. If you end up in the corporate world, be you, right? That's what people want. They don't want this kind of fake individual. They don't want, this imagined kind of person. They actually want the real you. So be you, do what's right for you at the time too, right? And like all of us on our journeys, we will be taxed or challenged at different times by different things. You need to make decisions about those things when they occur. Do what's right for you and for your family. And sometimes they're hard decisions, right? Sometimes you're going to have to say, you know what, this means I have to stop what I'm doing. And maybe that's your passion that you wanted to continue to follow. But don't stop it forever. Just park it, right? And do what you have to do and then come back to it at some point in the future, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, right. Thank you so much, Garry, for coming to the Chit Chat with Hustlers. So if I told about myself, so the key takeaway from this session is communication. So like if you wanted a good team, you have to communicate with your team. You have to motivate them. And you don't have to manage hundreds of people. You have to just manage 2 to 3 people and they will manage the rest. And the chain goes on and on. And the other key point that I personally took, like, don't hesitate to ask for help. This is a very big, thing for me, and very good advice from your side. So thank you so much.
Okay, so Garry, I learned many things. Like every one of us asked one question related to team partnering and related stuff. We also had some unofficial questions related to this, and it was a great session. Little bit of insights of your life and the professional workflow and related stuff. It really was a great session. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
thank you. Thanks, guys. It's been amazing to be a part of this with you and to share some of my experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with that said, if the viewers are seeing this video till the end, so Garry, can you please ask the viewers to please subscribe to the channel?
Yes, absolutely. Look, if you're still with us, please subscribe to the Hustlers YouTube channel. It's a great channel. The guys are a great bunch of people. It's been lovely to be able to be with them and share some of my experiences. Before we started recording this, they shared some of their experiences with me, and I've learned a lot today. So thank you guys for the opportunity to join you, and all the best for your channel going forward. All the best with your learning journey. And I love the opportunity to see you in person at some point in the future, rather than this virtual world that we're living in. But thank you.
One more thing, Garry, I want to add that ongoing to these sessions, we are doing some amazing stuff. We are using some Hindi words to interact our people to do something amazing stuff. So in this session, we are going to take our one word, Namaste everyone. So on the count of 3, all we are going to say Namaste everyone. So 1, 2, 3. Namaste everyone.
Namaste, everyone.
Right.
Namaste.
So this was so nice. So
Thanks,
all
guys.
the viewers,
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, so all the viewers, if you are seeing this video, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and Garry also told you about this, so please subscribe to the channel. And at the end of this podcast, I wanted to say, keep learning, keep hustling. Meet you till the next time. Thank you.
Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party. Roll up to